Do you want to know more about model railroad scenery? Why don't you stick around and watch this video and see how I did it on my N-scale model railroad, the Sayerhurst Secondary. Hello everyone, Joe from Central Jersey Conrail and N-scale. Welcome back. This is episode 3 in our scenery playlist. So this video, we're going to be working on the base level scenery for the Browns Yard and the Amboy Secondary. So what do I mean by base level scenery? So what we're going to be talking about today is the cardboard support structure, the plaster gauze that goes on top, also doing some track work, some painting. And that will get us set for the next stage, which will be adding our structures and all of our ground cover. So why don't you sit back and relax, watch the video, see how we did it, and then we'll come back and we'll talk. Okay, so here we are getting started on our base level scenery for the Browns Yard and the Amboy engine facility. So the first thing I'm doing is I'm using cardboard strips to build my Gridwork to support my plastic gauze. I picked these up through Micro Mart. I bought a big case of them. They were fairly inexpensive and saves a lot of time so you don't have to cut all the cardboard into strips. Now you don't have to buy them this way. You can make them yourselves. Just rummage through your recycling bin, save up a bunch of cardboard, and then spend an afternoon cutting them into strips. I just wanted to save some time, so I figured I'd just buy them already pre-made. Now I'm just using low temperature hot glue. I'm gluing it to the underside of the plywood sub-road bed, and then the other end I'm attaching to the fascia board. So once you get your system down, just go along and put your latitudinal strips in like I'm doing this way, and then just hot glue it in, and then we'll go to the next step. Now I come back with a full-length cardboard strip and run a longitudinal, and I'm alternating the pattern where I go under, over to make a grid. Once I have my pattern, then I come back with my pliers, stapler, and just staple the intersections of the grid. Here I'm getting started with the plaster gauze. So the first thing what I do is I take my roll and I cut them into squares, square-ish, rectangles, just small manageable pieces. I lay them out in a paint tray so they're easy to grab, and I get a bucket of clean water. Then I just give them a quick dunk in the bucket, shake off the excess, and then I lay them into place where I want them on top of the cardboard grid. Now, if you're reaching really far back into your layout over a lot of track work, I recommend you cover the track work. I did that when I was working in Sayreville. Here, I kind of just, I was close to the work area, so I didn't worry about dripping. Got a lot of my recommendations from the last time we did this together of using larger pieces because the smaller pieces are just too tedious. By all means, if you feel you want to use larger sheets, you can. I just like the smaller sheets because I can control the contours as I go. You know, with the plaster gauze, you have a tendency to make unnatural landforms, and I think by using smaller pieces, it's easier to control and keep that in check. So I know a lot of questions had arisen on how I was going to blend the scenery to cover the helix, and as you can see, I built my Gridwork up to the backdrop. I left a little area over there to the left that's a little open, and what I'll do is I'll put a row of trees to obscure that opening in the backdrop, and there's enough clearance from the bottom of the gauze to the first level of the helix so that I can reach in there if I have to. Now there was an area in the back behind the engine facility, between the engine facility and the backdrop, where it had sagged, so some of the cars were getting caught underneath. So what I did is I kind of just pushed it back up and supported it with some blocks of styrofoam, and that seems to have fixed that problem. And now we're just going to continue on laying our gauze. It's a nice relaxing afternoon. Once I put on some music, and once I get my groove, I just keep on rolling. Okay, and here I come laying the second layer. This layer here, what I try to do is pay attention to covering up any little gaps or holes in the plaster from the first layer, and just smoothing it out so it's all nice and even looking. You know, a lot of people kind of balk at the idea of using second layer of plaster gauze. They say it's a waste of money, and the scenic companies are just trying to sell you more product. I don't know. I just kind of always have done 2 layers or more. You know, scenery is all about layers. The more layers you put on, I think the more realistic it gets. And this is just helping you build a good base level. So, you know, if you want to go with just one level, you can. And eventually you can correct that if you have a thin layer of gauze, but just putting in some more Sculptamold or plaster on top of it. Okay, here we are getting started inserting the ties and the gaps in the rail. Now these gaps were from when I was cutting rail, and I had to cut off some ties to make room for the rail joiners. So I'm just going to go back and fill them in so it looks a little more finished. So now a lot of people were asking, why am I throwing all the plastic ties away? You can save those to put back in the gaps. You know, from my in-track days, I found it was very tedious to sit there and file all the plastic to get the nubs off so that they would fit smoothly. Because if you don't trim all that off, it has a tendency to push the rails up, and then you have humps in your rails. So I found these wooden ties that they just slide right in. They're already preset. They're already sanded. Not much work needed to be done, and they fit right in. You know, I struggled for a long time. How was I going to protect the cars from rolling off the end of the yard? One day I was out rail fending. I saw on an industrial spur how they had 2 ties wedged under the rails in a cross formation. I thought that would look good, so all I'm doing here is sticking the ties in and gluing them in. And in the end, they turn out really good, and it's just the right thing that I was looking for. So initially, when I talked about adding these wooden ties in, I was going to stain them. And then one of my followers, Maurice, recommended that, hey, just put them in naked and paint them when you paint the track. So I did that over in Sayreville. Initially, I really wasn't too happy with it. But then once I ballasted the track and you know, it all came together and they look really good. They add a little variation in the color. And so, yeah, I'm going to just keep doing it that way. It's one little extra step that you eliminate and save someone time. The biggest thing when you're doing these ties is you want to make sure you're not pushing the rail up. Your rail, it should remain flat. So that's what I'm doing here is I'm just paying attention when I'm putting these ties in. If they feel like they're tight, make sure that I'm not making a little hump in the rail. You see I'm using a pair of tweezers to insert them. Now I'm not getting too particular about them being straight or perfectly spaced, because you know, when you look at the railroad, there are some ties that get skewed or you know, get out of place. So I think doing it this way just adds a little variation to your track work, so it doesn't all look uniform. So that's one of the things I picked up out of doing it this way, and it makes everything, I think, look a lot better. So once I get the ties installed, I just come back with a tiny drop of CA on each tie, and with the wicking action of the wood, it soaks it up so you don't get a big glob, and it sticks it to the bottom of the rail. So this way they're in place and they don't move too much when I'm ballasting. So now we're going to get started painting our track. I'm using Monoflex Rail Brown in my airbrush. As you can see here, I have a nice long airbrush hose so I can walk around and have plenty of reach to get into all these spaces in the back. The painting of the track does a couple things for us. Number one, it helps with those wooden ties, and we're staining those so they blend in. Secondly, it takes that shine off of that plastic and it kind of dulls it down a little so it looks a little more realistic. And then the last thing is we're getting that little space on the outside of the web of the rail and getting it to colored look so it doesn't look like naked metal. And once you do it, it has a real profound effect on your track work. So when I'm painting my track and I get to the turnouts, I just, all the points and the moving throw bar and all that, I just skip right over that. I don't even bother. You know, with the track being around it that's sprayed brown, it kind of hides it. And when you put the ballast in, you don't even notice. So the reason I went with brown is, you know, when you go out rail fanning or you drive around, look at the track. It's not really rust color, it's more of a brownish, and that's from all the dirt and all the grime that gets kicked up and a little bit of the rust. So this rail brown is a real good color for that. As we're painting, another thing you'll notice is that the rail joiners, the insulated rail joiners, the track feeders, they all kind of start to fade into the track work and you don't notice it as much. And then once you ballast, they'll almost disappear and you won't even notice it. Now an important step is you got to go back and clean the paint off the tops of the rail surfaces because that is where your locomotives get their electrical pickup from. I recommend you do it as soon as you're done painting. Get in there and start cleaning it off. I maybe sprayed a little too much track work to do this because by the time I was cleaning it was a little sticky, but definitely do not let it sit overnight because it'll be a bear to clean the next morning. Okay, so there you have it. That's how we did it. So, you know, a few points I want to talk about. In the video, you may notice there was like a little open trench in front of the engine house, between the engine house and the camera. What that is that little area of the helix is I can't get to if there's a derailment. So I left that area open, and I'm going to carve a piece of foam out to kind of cover it like a lid. And then I'll scenic over it so it kind of blends in. This way, if there is a problem, I can lift that lid and you know, take care of whatever is going on in the top layer of the helix. So overall, I'm very happy with the way that the scenery is coming together. It's really bringing the layout to life. Really, the top of the helix, the way it blended in, it worked out really well. I'm going to work on, you know, when we get to the trees and the foliage, I'm going to block that area in the back where that opening was so you won't even see that. Also along the wall, I'm going to work on a building. Through my historical research, I found out that to the south of the engine house was the associated coal dumper, but there was also some buildings associated with that, and one of them was a thawing facility. So what would happen is when the coal came down the tidewater in the winter, they would be frozen together, and before they put it in the dumper, they'd have to run it through this house, and it would hit it with steam to heat it up and thaw it out. So I'm going to kind of use that to break up the transition from the backdrop to the scenery. The other thing is, a lot of people were asking questions of, some of the areas looks really rough where the scenery transitions to the backdrop. You noticed in the last video, it was like a little experiment where I took some photo and put it behind the Middlesex MUA, and it kind of blends everything in, and that's working out really well. I like the way that comes out, so I'm going to start adding, interspersing photos in along the backdrop to kind of help blend in the transitions, so it'll kind of hide all that nastiness down at the bottom. Also, since the last video, I've been working on little projects that I kind of skipped over, things that I got to get done for my operators, one of which was getting the turnout in over here on track 1. That's installed, so I resolved that issue because there was such close tolerance that the two tortoises didn't have enough room. So I went with a remote actuators on both of them, and they're working out really nice. The other thing I'm going to work on here in the next couple of days is installing the signal at the top of the helix, so that we can signal when the lower level is occupied. And yeah, the wooden ties, they're working out much better than I thought they were going to. So yeah, I'm very happy with that choice. The track looks so much better now that it's painted, as you saw from the pictures and the videos. So that really was it's a step that you really should consider when you want to bring your track work to that next level. Okay, so that's all I really have for this video. It was pretty straightforward, kind of short, but we just went over the same stuff we did in the first episode, but I got different angles in for you, so maybe if you didn't catch how I did something in the first one, you probably saw it this time. A couple of quick things I just want to throw out there. Let's see, October 17th, I will be on YouTube Model Builders live again with Mr. Baronic, the track planner. I'm going to be on at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and we're going to be doing the next series in our operations videos, and we're going to be talking about track warrants and getting our paperwork and moving out to the main line so we can go start doing our work. So if you saw the first video, or if you haven't seen the first video, go over to YouTube Model Builders Live and watch the video, and come check us out live 9 p.m. Eastern on October 17th, and I'll be there. You can ask all the questions you want. So another big announcement I want to make to you is, a couple of months ago I had done an interview with Mr. Lionel Strang for his podcast, A Modeler's Life. He was just in contact with me a couple of days ago and announced that on October 15th he's going to be releasing the episode that I was on, episode 108. I just wanted to tell everybody about it so you can go over there and check it out. If you don't know what A Modeler's Life podcast is, you got to go check it out. Go to his website, www.amodellerslife.com. I'm going to put it down in the comment section so you can click on it and go to his site. The podcast is amazing. It's very entertaining. Talks a lot about model railroad stuff, but it talks more about people in model railroading. And it's just a great show. Lionel does a phenomenal job. The cast that he has with him, the two Bruces are hysterical. I mean, go check it out. It's available in multiple different formats. If you're a Patreon subscriber, you can get it there. Also, it's available on iTunes, and it's also available through the Google Play. So go check out his website, go download some of the back issues, listen to it, and I think you'll agree. It's really worth listening to. And don't forget, October 15th, episode 108 with yours truly is going to be on it, so make sure you take a listen. Can't wait. So otherwise, I got my next operating session number 6, coming up on November 3rd. I'm going to have, right now I got 6 people coming already. Waiting for some more RSVPs to see how many we got. It seems like everybody liked the live feed from the yard, so I think this session I'm going to live stream from, I'm thinking Sayreville. I'm going to take everybody's advice. I'm going to put the camera up in the overhead. I'm going to rig it up so you guys can look down, and so you can get a bird's eye view of what's going on over there. So keep your eye on the channel for that. Content coming up all the time. Keep it on the channel. Make sure you click on the bell to get the notifications. If you've seen this video for the first time, please subscribe to the channel. More content like this coming up. And don't forget to check out our Facebook page and our Instagram account. So that's all I have for you this time on Central Jersey Conrail and Scale. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.